Yo, what's up? This is Raquel with the Reading Roller Coaster Club, and I'm gonna just jump straight into part 2 of the Jerry Brudos case. So where we left off, he had just had his son. He was denied access to the birth. This fueled a bunch of emotions in him. His depression started flooding back. His anger, towards women started flooding back. His desires to have, all these things in his possession started flooding back. So he immediately went to go try to ease that feeling. He saw a young woman walking with these red heels that he just could not take his eyes off of. And so he followed her throughout the night, and he started having that excitement. He started feeling another emotion. He replaced the rejected emotion with this new emotion of satisfaction and adrenaline, basically. And he watched her. He watched her through the whole night, and he saw where she went when she went home. He followed her into the apartment building, and he saw where she went. So he kind of configured where her window was at, so that he can go back and get those heels. So this is the first known case of where Jerry's crimes really escalated, because before, yes, he did assault them and take their shoes, but this one, he upgraded the assault, if you get my drift, okay? He went that extra mile. So he sees that the lights are out. He figures the girl is asleep. He gets into the window, and he decides to put some pressure on her to make sure that she is unconscious so that he won't get caught taking the shoes. But then he's said to have seen her laying there, and just like the thought of the power he now had over her, that she was at his mercy because she was there, unable to do anything. And that just kind of started brewing something else in him, seeing her unable to defend herself and just being at his mercy. But while he was doing this and admiring her, she kind of came to. And of course, he's not disguised. He just went on a whim because of the incident with his son. And so she sees him. And so this kind of spooks him in a way. So he makes her unconscious again. And the second time around, he starts really admiring her and her body and realizing that she really is at his mercy. So he touched her, and this gave him the most powerful reaction that he had ever had in his life. He never knew that could have been a thing for him. So when he was done with her, he took off with the shoes. And in the book, it was said that those were his best shoes that he had ever taken, because every time he saw them, he wore them, he touched them, he admired them. It just brought back the feeling of how much power he had at that moment. So that would be the very first escalated crime that Jerry had ever committed. And it was no holds barred from that moment on. And so it was said shortly after this, Ralphine would say, even though it was short-lived, that this was one of the best times of their lives as a family after Jason was born, because Jerry seemed happy. His depression was at bay. They were like a family, even though he still wasn't treating Megan how she would like. Being that she could see the type of father he was through Jason's raising, she was cloud nine. She was happy. She was like, oh my gosh, I love this man even more. Like, he really can be a good father. Like, she was seeing a difference in him in a positive way. But again, it was short-lived, because she did want to like go out and do a couple things and be social and feel normalcy other than just being a mother. And at this point, I forgot to say, but at this point, she quit wearing the heels for Jerry too, because she told Jerry, like, bro, I'm chasing after a toddler. I have a newborn. Like, cooking, cleaning, mothering, doing all these things in heels is taking a toll on my legs, on my back, on everything. It's just not realistic for me. So Jerry had to accept that. So that also kind of put a damper in their relationship. Parentheses, this is something that I did leave out. This kind of happened a little earlier, but it is something that did happen. Ralphine has caught Jerry in full drag. The only thing he was missing, she said, was a wig. She's seen him. She didn't react. She didn't make a big deal about it. She was just like, no, Jerry, like, this is not for me. Don't do that. And Jerry went and changed and came out as himself. And as if nothing had ever happened, it was never spoken about again. So, in parentheses. So, y'all know that when nobody was at home, he was walking around full drag, clickety-clacking, living his best dreams as he did when he was a boy. You know what I'm saying? So, that was pretty much their household. So, let's get back on track. So yeah, that didn't last long because, you know, of course, Jerry kind of felt like she was a nag because she wanted to do normal things. And at this point, they had been kind of settled in Salem, Oregon, I believe, living on Center Street, where it was like a little 2-bedroom house that had a detached garage. Well, it was attached. It was a garage. And Jerry at this point made it his little man cave to where Ralphine was not allowed in there at all. She was not allowed to step a foot, a toe, a hair, anything in that garage. And he even put it to where there was like an intercom system. And if dinner was ready, she needed him for anything, she was to use that intercom system. And now let's pause right here for a moment, because this is a big problem in this case for people, because they're like, girl, if my man told me I'm not allowed to go somewhere, that's the first place I'm gonna go. I'm gonna find a way to weasel my way in there. Like, what the hell are you hiding? You know what I'm saying? But Ralphine, mind you, one, she's 6 years younger than Jerry, and two, Jerry is all she's known up to this point, and she is very, very, very obedient to him. So it's like, what side are you on? Do you believe, leave in the comments, do you believe that Ralphine didn't know a thing that we're about to get into? Because this man cave was basically Jerry's lair where he would bring his victims back to. Okay, let's just put that out there. So a lot of people were like, how did she not know? She's literally like 5 feet away from him. How did she not know what was going on in there? How did she never get curious? Because in this garage is where Larry kept his heels. He kept all his garter belts, his girdles, his brassiers, his chonchons, his stockings, his victims, his whole getup, his photos. This was his own little evidence room. Like, he kept everything in this garage. And at the end of it, Ralphine claims to not have a clue. So, yeah, leave in the comments how much of that you believe. I'm kind of like torn, because one, you really can't know somebody. As much as when shit happens, people want to be like, how did you not know? You live with them, you this with that. You really, how well do people know you? Like, and all your little crazy, not crazy in Jerry Brudos status crazy, but like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. And this was different times. This was the 60s. Like, she was young. She was obedient. I don't know if she was, how scared, because he was a scary man. He was said to be like almost 6 foot, almost 200 pounds. He was strong. His friends, other men, described him as a very beastly man. He could carry like a 400-pound auto part like nothing, like a gallon of milk. Like, he could have been really scary. I don't know if he didn't seem the type, from what I read, to be abusive, but we don't know. When nobody knows what goes behind the walls of others' houses. So I don't know, because a part of me is like, girl, not one day were you curious why your husband didn't want you in the garage. Not one moment in your life did you not try to tiptoe in there when he was at work or he was on the prowl. Like, never once did you try to get yourself in there to see what was going on, because when you find out what was going on and how it was set up, there's like, no way. But then another part of me is like, damn, maybe she was really that obedient, because there are some women that will be that obedient, that are the man rules with an iron fist, and that his word is bond. Like, so let me know in the comments, okay? So from this point on, I just want to warn people, this is the point where we're going to start getting into the victims. So I'm just want to warn y'all now. It is very sad. The things that he was doing was very crazy, very unsettling. So at this point, this is where we're gonna get to the victims and his eventual trial. Okay, so again, we're gonna talk about the victims. If you are sensitive and, you know, triggered easily, I would advise you not to finish this video, because once we start getting into the victims, it is quite sad, of course, but it can get very graphic. Jerry Brudos was a freaking psychopath. The things that he was doing were horrific. I mean, people who kill and do things like that in general are horrific, but some people just take it to that extra level, and that was Jerry. So again, I'm just warning you that viewer discretion is advised for this part of the video. It hits a little harder than, you know, the previous part 1 of the video, basically. And again, this is just me telling this story as, you know, informative about this book and Rule the Lust Killer. I don't want to say entertainment purposes. I mean, kind of what it is, but I just feel like that doesn't feel like the correct words. So without further ado, we're gonna get into the victims. So the first victim in the book was Linda Catherine Slauson. She was a 19-year-old girl who was originally from Minnesota. She had relocated to Aloha, Oregon. She was said to be the fourth of 6 children. So she had many siblings. She was described in the book as slender, beautiful, caring, thoughtful, and ambitious. At 19 years old, Linda Slauson would begin selling encyclopedias. So again, we're in 1968 at this time, and door to door, whether it was Tupperware, Mary Kay, encyclopedias, like, this was a thing. This was before, you know, people started realizing that maybe going to somebody's house alone by yourself was not the best thing to do, because there are people in the world that are like Jerry Brudos. So it was January 26, 1968. It was said to be like a rainy, gloomy day, and Linda had set an appointment in this neighborhood. Unfortunately, it was the neighborhood of Jerry Brudos, and you know, you got to remember, there's no phones, there's nothing. So she had written on a little like sticky note the address to where she had to be, but of course in the rain it kind of smudged, so she wasn't quite sure of the numbers or the addresses or whatever. You know, by the time she made it into the neighborhood, the rain had kind of died down. And parentheses, I found this kind of like sad too, because in the book it said that Linda, due to the weather, kind of regretted wearing her high heels, because, you know, it was raining, and she kind of had like regret of wearing the high heels. And I think that was kind of a sad thing to, like, for the book to like assume or think, you know, or whatever, because of course we would never know what Linda was thinking, but for them to put that kind of really tugged at my heartstrings, in parentheses. So yeah, the rain had died down, and there was this potato head in his damn lawn just bullshitting in it, and Linda sees him, and right away, you know, he greets her with this friendly smile. He's like waving at her like, hey, how can I help you? Like, you look lost pretty much, you know. And Linda, she had, again, let's remember, I feel like I have to keep remembering, because, you know, a lot of times people are like, oh my god, you know, but Jerry didn't look threatening. Jerry looked like a regular neighborly man. So when Linda sees him, she's already lost. It's already been raining. She doesn't want to get rained out. She wants to hurry up and go to this appointment, you know. She's hyped herself up for this. Like, this, she has to get this sale. Rent is around the corner. You know, this is her only source of income. So there's no turning back. So she goes up to Jerry and his friendly little smile and his wave. And she's like, yes, were you the one that set the appointment for the encyclopedias? She's like, I'm sorry, the address on the sticky note, you know, it got erased or whatever. And Jerry just is like, come on in. Like, he doesn't verify if he was in fact the one that needed the encyclopedias. You know, he just is like, well, come on in. He's like, but actually my mother is upstairs with my daughter, which was true. This was not a ruse for once. He was like, my mother is upstairs with my daughter and they have company, so we can go around to the back and look at the encyclopedias if that's okay with you. And you know, Linda, she's 19 years old. She's trying to hustle. She's like, okay, she's probably thinking like, there's another woman here, there's kids here. Nobody, especially during this time, is going to be thinking like something crazy is about to happen. You know, of course you have your guard up, I'm sure, but you don't automatically think like something is going to happen to you. So Linda follows him. So it wasn't long before she found herself in his little lair. And you know, she's sitting there and Jerry's talking it up with her about these encyclopedias and stuff. And Linda, being the good salesperson that she is, you know, she's like, oh, you mentioned that you had a daughter. And she's like, I also have children encyclopedia if you're interested in that. She's like, we can get that going on the order too, you know. And so Jerry, he's just bullshitting her. We all know this, okay? So he's like, oh yeah, I mean, she's only 6, but she's really smart, and like, you know, eventually they'll come in handy. He's like, you know what, let me see those children's encyclopedias. So when Linda like bends over to get the encyclopedias, Jerry goes behind her and knocks her with a 2x4 on her head. Of course, again, he's a big beastly man. He's almost 200 pounds. He's about 6 feet tall. He's said to be able to carry like 400 pounds like nothing. So you can imagine the force and like, you know what I'm saying. So he does that, and Linda, unfortunately, she gets knocked out. So it is said that once Linda is on the ground, Jerry gets like over her and tries to get close to see if she's breathing, or you know, if her chest is moving and everything, which he noticed that in fact she is. So he takes it upon himself to help finish the job. And sadly that was the demise of Linda. It was said that at this point adrenaline hit Jerry, because he is now real, like, you know, because of course this is unexpected. Linda pretty much just fell into his lap pretty much. So he did not have nothing planned. This was all like on a whim. This was all just like his evilness taken over basically. So once he realizes what he has, he is ecstatic. He cannot believe that he pulled this off. He can't believe that Linda is here, you know, again at the mercy of him, because it's really boils down to like a power trip kind of. Like, that's kind of like what's behind, you know, from what I read in the book, that's the idea that I got. It's the power of having over another, you know what I mean? And he's a fucking coward, because they always have to be, you know, not there. He can never, like, you know what I mean? They're women. So fuck Jerry, dude. He is like giddy. So he gets this idea, because, you know, of course he has this whole inventory of all these things that he's been breaking into houses throughout the years, taking off the clothesline. He has a full-blown inventory, and the only person is usually himself. I think Ralphine at this point no longer, you know, does the little photo shoots for him. So he's the only one that wears these things. And now in his mind, you remember like back in the day, I'm probably aging myself here, but back in the day, paper dolls, you know what I'm saying? Like, where they would just have like a little cutout and they'd have all these clothes and you would just put them on and switch them out. Okay, like the more modern days, like the magnets, where they have like the girl on the magnet and then they have a bunch of dresses. That is what Jerry's thinking. that is what Jerry is thinking that he has now at his hands, and he is excited because he starts pulling out all his clothes and he starts fitting Linda for it basically. But right before he can get like into the thick of it, like he had just got as far as like gathering the clothes and stuff, he is like brought back to reality because he hears his mother and his daughter upstairs. They're upstairs, right? Remember? Okay, what all this happened. So he's like, oh shit. He's like, I can't really like do anything until I get them out of here, because at the time Ralphine and the baby, because Jason's still a baby at this time, she's off somewhere, which I found online, people that actually knew her, like their grandparents knew her, and it seems like Ralphine was an avid bowler, went bowling, so maybe that's what she was out doing. I don't know, but anyways. So Jerry hurries up and goes upstairs and tells his mother, because his mother was about to start cooking and everything like that. And mind you, Eileen, the all-seeing Eileen, Jerry's thinking like, this chick is not about to mess this up for me. All the best moments in my life, this woman has ruined. And I'll be damned if Eileen is going to ruin this for me. Because remember, Eileen has been there at every pivotal moment of Jerry's life that has pretty much sprinkled the ingredients of this monster, right? So immediately that is what he's thinking. I'm sure his little mind went all the way back to 5 years old when he found them first pair of high heels. He had to get Eileen out the house. So Eileen, of course, when she was there with the daughter playing, which is probably the daughter she never had, which is why she probably, you know, was probably the best grandmother. Because okay, I don't want to get the roast. I was gonna just say, isn't it weird how sometimes parents are better grandparents than parents? But okay, I got it off my chest. So Jerry goes upstairs and he's like, you should take Megan and go get some cheeseburgers. Like, y'all should stay there, y'all should eat, have a, you know, a granny moment, just, you know, do that. And on your way out, before you leave, order me a cheeseburger. Here's some money, go do that. And she's like, are you sure? Like, I was just about to cook it. She's like, no, I think she would really like a cheeseburger, and I think that would be really good for y'all, and I am craving a cheeseburger. Go get me a cheeseburger. But, you know, just stay there, eat, and order it on the way out. So his mom, she's like, okay, you know, sounds good to me or whatever. So as soon as she leaves, Jerry scurries downstairs, and for the first time he really gets to see Linda. And the fucking asshole says that he was not impressed by her style, that he was not impressed by what she was wearing, so he couldn't wait to get her out of that and put her into what he wanted her to wear, basically. But once he took her, you know, off, he said that he was impressed with what was underneath, that she had a very beautiful blue girdle set and some red chuns. And those red chuns really stuck out to him. Like, he didn't want it. Those were the only thing of Linda's that he kept on her because he was so impressed by them or whatever. So yeah. So again, right when he's getting into the thick of it, you know, in his little sadistic playing, he hears footsteps up in the upstairs, and he's like, what the hell? Like, they just left. Like, what happened? So he drags under the stairwell and he kicks the bag of encyclopedias out the way. He bolts it upstairs, and it never mentioned him having friends like that, but apparently he had a friend named Ned, and Ned was such a good friend that he had a key to the house, which is crazy if you think about the shit that Jerry was doing. But Ned let himself in, and I'm just like, the hell, you know what I mean? But anyways, so Ned supposedly saw the car in the driveway, was knocking, nobody answered, so he came in, let himself in. So Jerry's like all huffing and puffing and like, oh, I didn't hear you, like you startled me, you know. And Ned was just like, oh, I just wanted to talk to you about something, and da-da-da-da. So they chopped it up for a little bit, you know. Jerry knows he's on a time limit, so he's trying to speed this conversation up. And so he kind of like entertains him for a bit, and then he's like, you know what, I'm really working on something super important downstairs. He's like, so I'm gonna have to like get back to you on whatever this is. I gotta get back to work. Like, this is very time sensitive, and I just can't do what you're trying to do right now. And so Ned's like, okay, sounds good, Jerry. Glad to see you're okay. Just get a hold of me when you have time, you know. So Jerry's like, okay. So he scurries Ned out fast in a hurry, runs back to his little lair, and just lets himself be void of any distractions. Like, he has been doing this, waiting for too damn long. Like, now it's starting to piss him off because, you know, he can't just enjoy himself, you know? So it is said that he's over there filling all the fabrics, doing all these things. He's dressing up Linda, you know, undressing, just playing like she's a doll. That's what he's doing. He's playing like she's like a doll. And so after a while, he hears that his mom is back. So he kind of just puts Linda to the side, goes upstairs, and he knows, like, at this point, he's gonna have to stay upstairs for a while. So he goes upstairs, he eats his hamburger, and talks to his mother. Ralphine gets home not too later, so he has to stay even more time up because now he's trying to, like, wait till Ralphine goes to sleep and stuff like that so that he can get back to what he was doing. So it was said that while he was doing this, like, he was kind of excited because, again, he never had anybody to share this passion with, and in a fucked up way in his head, he felt like he was sharing this with Linda. And it was also said that he was kind of mad at himself because he did not remember to put film in his camera because, again, Linda just kind of was a sporadic thing, so he wasn't prepared per se. So he just had to live in the moment, you know, like, just soak it up because he really wanted to capture it, but he didn't have the film for it. So he's doing this for a while, but eventually he's knowing, like, I can't keep her here. And mind you, this is his first time ever in his own territory. So this is the first time he's figuring out, like, how this is going to play out. Like, what is going to happen now that it's coming to a point where I literally cannot keep her here. Jerry, being the collector that he is, you know, he has many hobbies and he loves to collect things. He does not want to not have a souvenir, a trophy, whatever you want to call it. He just feels like he needs to have something left behind to savor this moment when he wants to. So this is going to be a little graphic. Jerry cuts off Linda's left ankle. And he has the deep freezer, so he cuts her ankle off, he puts it in a shoe, and he puts it in the freezer. And for some reason, he has like a bunch of car engines. Okay, so he takes Linda, puts her in his car with the car engine and some rope. He ties an electrical knot because he's an electrician, and that is very important because eventually, parentheses, this is what's going to be his downfall. He ties his little electrical knot and ties it to Linda, and he goes to, it was the St. John Bridge on the Willamette River in Oregon, and he just tosses her over the bridge. And later in interviews, when they, you know, like, they're talking to him about this, he has no regrets about anything, no regrets about anything. And the only thought that he had was that he remembered that she was wearing a 1967 class ring, and he kind of regretted not keeping that. So he did that, and then he goes back and he keeps the foot for a while. He keeps it for a few weeks, using it as a foot model for his heels, you know, trying different heels and things on with it. It's fucking Jerry, dude. Like, I don't know what to say at this point. Like, this shit is messed up. Like, so yeah, he does that. And then eventually he's like, you know, because it's a human body part, he's like, I can't keep this forever either. So he ties that down with something, not like a whole engine, but he ties it down with something and tosses that over the bridge too, and gets rid of it because he's like, I can't keep this forever, you know what I mean? So, of course, as Jerry's does, he kind of hunkers down for a bit and tries to see, like, what's going to come of this, you know, because, mind you, this was his first crime where he kind of went all the way, you know what I'm saying? So, he's, like, wondering, is this going to come back on me? Like, what's going to happen? So, he kind of chills, but in the meantime, he is fantasizing because we all know he's a dreamer. He's thinking, like, what else can be done? Like, if I was able to do all that and my mom and my family were upstairs, like, the possibilities are endless. Like, like I did it. Like, he's excited. His sick little mind. He's excited that he did something new because, you know, he's always looking for that new and, like, new thing to go higher than what he had already been doing, right? So now he's thinking, like, what can I do? What can be my next thing? So fast forward, we are now in November, the fall of 1968. So this is about 10 months. It has been about 9 to 10 months since Linda Slauson. And it is, you know, Thanksgiving is right around the corner, and Jerry's starting to get stressed out because he's thinking, like, I'm going to have to spend time with my nagging wife. I'm going to have to spend time with the mother that I hate. I'm going to have to spend time with my in-laws who hate me and that I hate. So he's starting to get his little migraines. He's starting to get annoyed. He's starting to, so you know Jerry, he needs something to soothe him when he gets upset. It makes it worse because now it's during winter time and nobody's hanging their clothes out on the line because it's Oregon. I think it snows and stuff over there, so like nobody's hanging out their chon-chons on the damn line. So now he's even more pissed because his inventory is sitting, you know, bare, and he's just, everything's just agitating him. He's on his damn rag, you know what I'm saying? So like, unfortunately, will lead him to his next victim, who was Jan Susan Whitney, and this is because he ended up encountering her on I think it's an interstate or a highway, I-5, yeah, like I-5. And the only reason that he is going back and forth, because I believe he lived in Salem, Oregon, but he worked in Lebanon, Oregon. Jan Susan Whitney was born May 8th, 1945 in Anacortes, Washington. It was said that she had one brother, one sister at the time. And she was described in Ann Roll's book as being a woman about 5'7" with brown hair, brown thick hair, blue eyes, and weighed about 130 pounds. She was said to have a very trusting personality. Jan did have a history of picking up hitchhikers. You know, like she was very thoughtful and caring. She wanted to help people. She was said to be happy, dependable, intelligent. At the time, she was almost done pursuing her degree at the Oregon State University. So she moved from Eugene, Oregon to McMinnville, being that she was already going to be finished with school. And so she would drive a lot of times back and forth from Eugene to McMinnville and vice versa. And on November 26, 1968, that is exactly what she was doing. She was celebrating early Thanksgiving with her friends, and she was now headed home. So as she was headed back home, her car, she had a red and white older model. I think it was Nash. I'm not too sure. I think it was called a Nash Rambler. And it started to give her trouble. And so she had to pull over to the side of the road. And this is where where she met Jerry Brudos. Jerry Brudos pulled up. It was Jen and two guys, which Jerry described to investigators as two hippie guys, like with their long hair, like your classic hippie kid is what he called them. So it was two of them, and Jerry, you know, he was very handy. He was good with mechanical work, you know. So he goes and he's like, hey, are y'all not able to get this going? And the guys are like, no, like we can't figure it out. So Jerry's like, I'm actually a mechanic and I can help you guys if you need. And, you know, of course, Jan's like, great. Like, I'm like, yeah, good. Sounds good. So Jerry, pretending to do whatever he was pretending to do, is like, oh, actually, I don't have what I need here, but I do have it back at my house, which is in Salem, which is not too far because I'm I'm gonna post some maps, and you will see like on that line from where she was going, Salem is like smack right there, and Corvallis, which are places Jerry has known to be. Anyways, so Jerry actually gives all three of them a ride. They all get in the car with Jerry, which I understand Jan's probably thinking right now, because again, she's a very people person. She sees the good in all, you know, and she's not alone. She has these two fellas with her, so I'm pretty sure initially she was like, this is going to be okay, you know. So she gets in the car with him, and Jerry drops the two hippies, the hitchhikers, I'm assuming they were, off, you know, wherever they asked to get dropped off, get them a little closer to their destination. And it's just him and Jan, and, you know, they're just talking, and, you know, assumingly Jan still has no inclination that this is gonna take a turn some point in the night. So they go all the way to Jerry's house. Jerry pulls into his garage, and he's like, I just need to run inside real quick and get my tools. My wife is here with my kids, so I'm gonna let her know, like, I ran into you. I'm gonna just tell her the whole situation. And Jan's like, okay, yeah, that's understandable, like, you know, whatever. So she kind of feels more at ease too, knowing that his wife and his kids are inside. So Jerry gets out, he goes and tries to tussle with the door, and he's like, oh my gosh, my wife, she's not here anymore, like, I didn't expect her to leave, like. But the whole time he knew he knew Ralphine was not home. He knew that Ralphine was not going to be home for a while. I forgot where it said she took the kids somewhere, and so he already knew that nobody was there and nobody was going to be there. So Jan is like, oh, okay, so you think she just went up the road because you weren't expecting her to go anywhere? And he's like, yeah, like she'll be right back, you know. So somehow or some point he got in the back passenger seat behind Jan, right? He's small talking her, and he's like, hey, you want to play a game? And she's like, sure, you know, let's pass the time. And he's like, close your eyes and look forward and try to imagine yourself tying a shoelace. So Jan is like, okay, whatever, like, we're killing time. So she does it. Mind you, he's in the back seat. So she kind of turns around and closes her eyes, and she's like, you know, how would I tie a shoelace? And Jerry starts laughing, and he's like, no. And he just said that it was a funny thing to ask somebody to explain how to tie a shoe, you know, without using your hands, to show how when you can't see, end quote. That's what he said about that when they asked him about that. So anyways, so he tells Jan, no, you have to look forward and not use your hands, I think, or something like that. So just kind of like describe it to me like a game. So he wanted her to be like, you loop it, you know what I mean? Like, do this, do that. Like, that's what he wanted her to do. So she's like, okay. So she turns around straight forward. Mind you, Jerry's right here in the back. So unknowing to her that when Jerry got out of the car to go check the door, he actually grabbed himself a leather strap, and he was able to restrain her, and as hard as he can, because remember, Jerry is this beastly 200-something pound man, 6 foot, can carry a freaking 400-pound motor like a damn milk jug. You remember that? Okay. So he has her, and he gets out of the car, and he hangs the slack of the leather strap into the back passenger seat and closes the door and holds it there and goes inside his house. Now, what I'm about to say is going to be quite graphic, so just letting you know, just warning you. So Jerry comes back out. I don't know how long he had went inside for, but when he comes back out, unfortunately, that is it for Jen. So he immediately, Jerry became a necrophiliac at this point. This was the first time that he had done this as well. I guess it just, I don't know. Yeah, I have no words. I have no words for that. So he did that for a while, over and over at random times with her. something that he learned differently from Linda was, instead of just having her there, he actually had made like a pulley system. It was said that he had like a hook thing in his wall where he, you know, he can put the rope, and he had a pulley system, and that way it was easier for him to dress her, play paper dolls with her. It was easier for him to do that. So that was something that he had upgraded from the first time. And he had done that, like when he was done, I guess, with that the last time, he, you know, pulled it all the way down to where it was just her heels barely doing that. And he liked to hear like the clickety clacking and the scratching of the heels from her trying to find her balance. Okay, and at some point, I don't know when, he also went back to where Jan's car was. He put it on a tow, and he had fully planned on disposing it in the river, because at this point, this is his dumping ground, okay? Because it is said that that Willamette River, I believe in Oregon, it runs very long. That I-5, I think there was an I-5 killer, now that I think about it, separate from Jerry. But let's get back on track. But that was his like dumping ground, okay? So his original plan, like his OG plan was like, I'm gonna take this car, I'm gonna dump that in the water, and I'm gonna go back, you know, when I'm ready, I'm gonna take Jan and also do the same. But he got spooked because whilst he was towing it, there was like a bunch of state troopers type of thing going on, and so he got kind of spooked. So what he did was just dump it like at a rest stop. He just put it like in a random place. He dumped it like at a rest stop or something like that. And the law enforcement would later find it later. But yeah, so he kept Jan for a while and was being you know, a weirdo. And it's Jerry. It wouldn't be Jerry if he didn't want to keep something, collect something. So what he did was cut off her chest, and he tried to make paperweights out of it. And these actually were inside the house when he was busted. These were like on a mantle, like in the family room, like a den or whatever. And Ralphine knew about them. And when Ralphine saw them, she was like, those look awfully realistic. And he's like, oh yeah, I made them, but I messed up because I put too much hardener in them. And they're just a novelty gift. They were paperweights. He was like, I wanted to just make like gag gifts. And, you know, this was my first try at it. Not knowing that those belonged to somebody for real. So yeah, he had that in his home. So he left her there while him and Jan and the kids took off out of town to go have their Thanksgiving holiday. And there was an incident while he was gone. There was a driver, I don't know if it was a drunk driver, medical emergency. Something happened where a driver veered off and slammed into Jerry's garage, his little lair. And mind you, Jan was in there. Jan was in there still on the pulley. And they kind of dented in his garage door. Like, not completely, unfortunately. So the cops had went over there for the incident. They made an incident report and everything. And then they left their card there on something. I don't know if one of their cars, like Ralphine's car or whatever was there. But they left it there so that when they got home, they could call them and find out what happened and get everything together for the insurance. So when Jerry sees this, when he gets home from holiday, he is freaking out because he's like, oh my gosh, like the cops are here. He goes and checks his little lair, but nothing's amiss. He's just like, okay, so whatever. But see, supposedly where the garage was dented, there was like a hole. And if you would have looked through that hole, you would have been able to see Jan. Okay, the cop that took that case swears that he did kind of peep in there, but that he couldn't see anything. That he could just see like toys and, you know, things like that, that he didn't notice anything. But Jerry, that is one thing he gloated about. He felt so smart, so much smarter than the cops, because he was like, they literally could have saw her. She was there. So yeah. So after this happens, Jerry takes Jan and puts her in like this little shed or something else on the property so that he can call the insurance company. He cleans up. He has all his little, his little evidence room. He locks everything up, picks up everything, and then he calls the insurance, makes a claim, and the rest is history. But the fact was that this right there just boosted his ego. Like, he felt so invincible because he was like, she was in plain sight. Nobody's seen her, and nobody, like, it just stroked his ego a little bit. That little, you know what I mean. So again, the time has come. He can't keep her. He has to get her out of the house. So he gets his little motor and he does the same thing he did to Linda. And in his interview with the law enforcement, they asked him, was it the Willamette or was it the Tom Long? And this is a quote from Jerry from Ann Rule's The Lust Killer book. That I told you that it was the Willamette. That's enough. It was a long time ago. It doesn't matter. End quote. But you know what? Jan Whitley did matter. Because immediately after she didn't show up to her house, her family, her friends, they all knew that this was not right. Jan was not the type to not communicate. She was like very outgoing people person, very happy, very giddy. She would have been happy to tell somebody that she was home. She would have reached out to her mother, her friends, somebody. So they filed a missing person report on her immediately. They were kind of upset because when they went to talk to the police told them they had to wait 24 hours because, that is a thing. Back then, like it wasn't like, it was a thing back then, right? So while they waited, they didn't just wait like impatiently by the phone. They were doing things. They were making flyers. They were getting things together, putting all the information that they had, everything, until they were finally able to file an official missing persons report. They put a missing report on her car. They drove up and down the I-5. They went back and forth from Eugene to McMinnville and reversed. Like, they were adamant on finding their loved ones. So she was very much cared about. Eventually they did find her car, but of course nothing really happened in the car, so there was no evidence. There was no clues to what could have went wrong. They did lift a fingerprint off of one of her hubcaps, but this is 1968 and there's not really much that they can do with that fingerprint, unless Jerry was in the system or whoever's fingerprint that was. It could have been the hippie guy or whatever, but like there was nothing. They were at a standstill at this time. So of course, as Jerry does, he kind of sits back after he has things like this happen. He wants to sit back and lay low and see if there's going to have anything come from these acts that he's doing, if he's going to basically get caught up. So he just chilled out for a moment. Just went through the Christmas holiday. Remember, his birthday is January 31st, so his 30th birthday rolled around. It was saying that at this time his headaches were starting to improve. Like, it's the new year, new me. Life is looking up for Jerry, okay? Everything's getting better for Jerry in this. It would be 1969 now. It was also during this time, not only in Oregon, because in Oregon there was like a lot of women and girls going missing. A lot of them were deemed just like runaways and things like that. But this was happening all over the country. This was 1960s, 1970s. This was a prominent time of all the serials. You know what I mean? Like, especially in Washington, Oregon, California, that kind of thing. So, Jan and Linda and all that, they were just pretty much a number at this point because there was just so much going on in this era. And, Jerry was on nobody's radar. Jerry, again, he's just an ordinary guy to the unknowing eye. Like, he is just an ordinary man. Just a potato head nobody can care about. Redhead, freckled face, acne-prone potato head. Like, nobody's looking at him really thinking that he's capable of anything sinister. So now, the seasons are passing. It is becoming spring. It is now the spring of 1969. It is Thursday, March 27th, 1969. And this is where Jerry Brudos will claim his third victim, who was Karen Elena Sprinkler. Karen Elena Sprinkler was born January 3rd, 1950 in Pullman, Washington. In the book, she was described as like a brilliant student. She was the salutarian of her high school. She was attending a university with dreams of becoming a doctor. I believe she was following in her father's footsteps. She was also described as being sweet. She had a warmth innocent of a woman. She was beautiful but not sultry. That's a quote. She was a woman that was virtuous. She was confident in her principles. She was described as having thick black hair that fell below her shoulders, that tumbled across her forehead in waving bangs. She was described as trusting person. She was also in the National Honor Society. She had a National Merit Scholarship finalist. She was the winner of the Salem Elks Leadership Reward and a member of the Maryland County Youth Council. I was able to find out that she had a brother. I don't know if Karen had any other siblings besides the brother, but that was all that I was able to find. So on March 27th, 1969, Karen Sprinkler was supposed to meet her mother at a department store called Meyer and Frank, because Karen was in the end of her college career and she was in between semesters, and her mother wanted to treat her to lunch and take her to go school clothes shopping for her upcoming semester. She was supposed to meet her mother at noon. Now, Karen was a very prompt person. Her mother knew like there would be no reason why Karen wouldn't show up or in some way communicate with her if she knew beforehand that she was going to be late. So after about 30 minutes, her mother gets up to find a payphone and call to where Karen would be, and then call her house to see if Karen went over there, to no success for that. So she got kind of worried, and she's like, you know what, let me go sit down for another 5-10 minutes, and if Karen doesn't show up, then I need to go home, because she's either going to call or she's going to come by. So that's what she did. But the truth is, Jerry Brudos was out on the prowl. He had called into work that day stating that he had a bad migraine. He says that it was true in his interview with detectives that he did start the day off with a migraine, so that is why he called in. But then he went looking, and he originally had his sights set on this other girl whom he described as being in a miniskirt, very fashionable with nice high heels, and he had to have her. So he goes and parks and he waits. He's out on the stakeout. He's waiting for that girl to come back around, but she never does. And then he notices Karen. He didn't think Karen was fashionable or nothing really attracted to him except her dark hair. So he's like, it's now or never. This is my opportunity. There's another woman right there. So he approaches Karen with his little, weapon or whatever, and he grabs her by the elbow. He tells her to get in his car and to not make a scene, and that nobody was going to get hurt. So Karen, she's obliging. She's going with him, but as she's going with him, she's telling him, like, you don't have to do this. There's nobody in this parking garage but you and I. You can let me go. Nobody will ever know what happened. But of course, Jerry has his sights set on getting this done. Ralphine that day was out with some girlfriends, so he already knew the house was all his. He just had to get Karen there. So he puts her in the car. She gets in the car, and he gets in, and they drive off, and they're small talking. He even goes as far as to ask her if she's ever been with a man. She takes this opportunity to bring up that it is the time of her month right now, and that maybe this is not a good idea. He could still let her out, and Karen would be pleading for her life up into the last minute. Even after he violated her, once he got her home into his little lair, he violated her. She even said, you can just let me go. I will not tell anybody. But Jerry is just ignoring her, of course, because Jerry has it all mapped out in his head. He has done this twice before, and there's no way in his mind that Karen is leaving his house. When he was done doing what he was doing with her, Karen asked to use the restroom, and Jerry took her into his house to go use the restroom before eventually bringing her back and putting her on the pulley system, unaliving her and playing paper dolls. He would then go about and do the same thing that he had done to Linda and Jan. He did the same thing to her as Jan and tried to make paperweights again. He is quoted as saying that he did better the second time around, but still wasn't good enough. He then took all his stuff back and put on Karen's original outfit that she had came with. And you know those brown paper towels that are like in elementary schools or bathrooms? I don't know if that's still a thing. He had some of those and he stuffed her where he had took for the paperweights. Put it in his trunk, I'm sorry. Got his electrical not ready with his car part, went to the Willamette and did it all over again, just as he has done before. And I don't feel like I should go into detail every single time because it's basically a blueprint by now. Exact same thing he did to Linda, exact same thing he did to Jen. That's exactly what he did to Karen. And after that, as he tends to do, he goes home, he lays low, he tries to see what is going to come about that. Okay, so it was then, because now you have Linda, then you have Jan, now you have Karen, and this again is a time where this is just happening. This is just a reoccurring thing. Girls disappearing, girls running away. This was a high crime time for those kind of people, right? For serials. So Ralphine is talking to her girlfriends and everybody about how scared she is. Mothers are having conversations with their children. Young girls are scared to go anywhere by themselves. It's just a very, very like high tension time right now, especially in this part of the United States. It was said that Jerry was kind of like not gloating, but like smirking in the background, because Ralphine was telling him like, yeah, I was telling my girlfriends like we really got to be careful and look over our shoulders. And Jerry's like, girl, you're gonna be all right. But you know, Ralphine doesn't know he's telling her this because he knows she's really gonna be all right. You know what I mean? Like, it is a mess, dude. Jerry is a fucking psychopath. So again, Jerry's laying low, but he's staying busy doing something. I don't think it ever said what he was doing, because Ralphine claims that during this time Jerry was either hunkered down in his lair or he just wasn't home. So mind you, she was not allowed to go into this garage, and the deep freezers in the garage where they keep their chicken and stuff. And so she would just buzz up, because remember he had this intercom system for him to bring her up whatever meat or whatever she wanted to cook for dinner. But now he's not there often, and she's getting annoyed because she's like, I don't understand why I have to wait for you to get home. Why can't I just go down there and get what I need for dinner, right? So for the first time, she's already had enough, but for the first time, we're gonna hear about her actually going in the garage, actually going in there, right? Well, she goes in there, grabs her chicken, she's going up, and then she notices something, and it's a box of pictures. And it's pictures of a bunch of women, nude, posed, or whatever, right? And she gets upset, of course. This is no fault. Nobody's faulting her. She's a woman. She sees her husband with these naked women that are not her, and she gets upset. And as if perfect freaking timing, dude, just like his mother, the all-seeing Eileen, Jerry happens to show up at that exact moment that Ralphine starts to pick up the pictures to look through them, right? She just notices these women. He grabs these pictures from her and he's like, Ralphine, what are you doing in here? And she's like, well, Jerry, you're not home. I need to cook dinner, blah, blah, blah. We all know how that went. And she's like, what are these? Like, why do you have these pictures of these women? And Jerry, with his above average IQ, is quick to be like, oh, I know. He's like, I was so mad when I developed these pictures and saw what they were. So this guy I know, he knows I developed pictures. He gave them to me and I didn't know what they were, of course, until they were developed. And I told him, I have small children. I have a wife. I cannot be developing pictures like this. Please do not send this to me anymore. But so after I give it to him, that is the last of that. I told him that I cannot be developing pictures like these. And so Ralphine takes it at face value and believes Jerry and is like, okay, I'm glad you told him something, babe. Thanks. You're such a good husband. I love you. Let me go cook you this fried chicken. Yeah. And it was said that later on, Ralphine would find what we know as selfies of Jerry in drag. Yeah. Just throwing that out there. She never did nothing about it, though, because remember, she's already seen her with her own eyeballs dressed like that. And She just assumed that her husband was a little quirky, you know what I mean, a little kinky. So yeah, but anyways, so about almost a month goes by, right? It is now April 21st and 22nd, and Jerry has 2 failed attempts. So one of them, he wasn't even in his own car. He wasn't even in his own car. I forget what the car is. Something Gia, Ghia. I'm gonna put a picture here. I can't remember what the name was, but he was borrowing his friend's car, which I'm assuming is Ned, because at this point, this is the only friend we hear about him having, right? And he, for some reason, had his friend's sports car, and he was on the prowl. He sees this young girl who I believe was like 12 years old walking up the street. He gets out and tries to approach her, his same MO, tries to approach her, and she freaks out. That little girl was quick on her feet, quick on her mind, because she immediately scans the neighborhood, sees a woman across the street gardening, watering her garden or whatever. She bolts it, and she's like, that man right there, that fat ass with the freckles, and the red hair, he tried to put me in his car and tried to make me go with him. And that lady right away called the cops. It was like, yes, there was this chubby man with freckles, red hair, frumpy, with a sports car that tried to abduct this 12-year-old little girl. And that was one of the first times he was reported and documented by law enforcement. You know, of course they didn't know it was Jerry, but he was put in a report that was an incident that had happened. And thankfully that little girl did that. Oh my gosh, thankfully she did that. So she got away. And Jerry was spooked because, of course, anytime all eyes are on him, he's out of there, right? So then the next day comes around, April 22nd. He is in another parking garage. He is again on the hunt, and he sees 24-year-old Sharon Wood, mother of 3. I don't remember what she was doing. There are many documentaries, many interviews of her. She is very vocal about her experience with Jerry Brudos. You can find that anywhere on the internet. When I went down my rabbit hole, I was able to find 2 of her own personal interviews. So it is out there. There's a lot of interviews and stuff about her out there. But her name was Sharon Wood. She was 24 years old. And she was a teacher or something, I believe. And Jerry approached her the same way he had did Karen. Tried to go up to her, grab her. He somehow ended up, though, getting her from behind. And as he did, his thumb went in her mouth, and she got lockjaw from the fear of what was happening to her. And she gripped his thumb and bit the shit out of him. And he was freaking out. So they were able to tussle, and he started to hit her head on the concrete because he wanted her to let go of him. And so her muscles ended up relaxing to where she was able to release, and he took the fuck off. He took off running. Sharon Wood is quoted as saying, "How odd. Once he became the captive, he was scared to death. He was fighting to get away from me." Yeah, that tells you how fucking much Jerry was a damn coward, dude. As soon as the tables were turned and a woman had him in a submission, he got scared. He ran. So she was badly beat, badly bruised, but alive. She survived. She is a survivor of Jerry. He almost had her. So the next day, on April 23rd, 1969, Jerry would get to what we are known as his last known victim, which would be Linda Dawn Saley. Linda Dawn Saley was 22 years old at the time. She was born on August 27th, 1946 in Portland, Oregon. I was only able to find that she had a brother and a sister. I know that her sister is also on many documentaries. Of course, I know her mother, her father, everybody was torn by her disappearance, but it really affected her sister to where she was very vocal about how it affected her. Linda Saley being one of Jerry's victims. So again, that is out there as well. In Ann Rule's book, Linda was described as 5'1", very feisty. She had a very bubbly, bouncy personality. Although she was small, she was very athletic. She excelled well in school. She was exceptionally pretty with short blonde hair, which she kept in a pompadour. I can't say that word, sorry. She had blue eyes. She had very long lashes and the perfect smile. And she, you know how like small towns do, like Miss this, Miss that, Miss whatever. She won Miss Smile one year because that's how bright and bubbly her personality was, her aura, her positive greatness that made people just want to be around her, be happy. And she had such a kind soul. Her love language was giving gifts. That's what she was known to do for those that she loved. And it was on this day, in April, on April 23rd, 1969, that she was at a mall shopping for her boyfriend, her fiance, and she wanted to get him a nice like watch, I think it was. And of course, she's a girl, so she was just on a shopping spree. She was just shopping for herself, shopping for their others, but her main point was to be there to get a gift for her boyfriend. And she was going to give it to him later that afternoon because he worked as like a lifeguard or something at the YMCA, and this was like a regular thing for them. She would go a little later when he was closing off his shift so that they can have like a swim together, you know, once everybody had left and stuff like that. So he was already expecting her. But unfortunately for her, when she was walking back to the parking garage to her little red Volkswagen buggy, she had her hands full of shopping bags. And it was there that she would encounter Jerry, who for the second time in his life that we know of, he impersonated law enforcement and said that he was like a cop or security or something like that, and that they got notified that Linda was shoplifting, and so that he was going to need to take her down to the station with all her bags and clear her name because she was accused of shoplifting. And Linda Dawn Saley would go with Jerry Brudos with no problem, under the belief that she was leaving with a cop. Jerry would then drive them home. He didn't really say much about what really Linda had said. They did have small talk on the way to his house. She didn't really question much about what was going on. Supposedly, when they pulled into his garage, he heard Ralphine come out, so she was home that day. And it said that he jumped out the car, he ran up to her and was like, you need to go inside and you need to stay inside because I'm gonna go into my garage and I have some very important work that I need to be done, so I need you not to bother me at all. Stay out of my way, stay inside. And of course, the obedient Ralphine, she listened. Ralphine just pokes her head out and says, just don't forget dinner. And Jerry's like, okay, I'll be right up for dinner, just leave me alone for now. And so he takes Linda into his garage. He puts her on the pulley system and he goes inside and eats dinner. So let me pause real quick. I don't understand. Like, I want so badly to believe that Ralphine didn't know. Like, I'm just struggling so hard here because I'm like, this girl is literally there while y'all eating dinner, and I would like to think that Linda didn't just be there quietly, but I don't know. You don't know until you're in that position how you're going to react. Are you in shock? Are you listening? Are you hoping that, you know, if you don't make a scene, that things can go all right for you? And the fact that Ralphine had went in there and caught, you know, when she saw the pictures, did she not? I mean, he is a mechanic, so I guess like the pulley system and all that, I don't know. Like, I just can't wrap my brain. My little peanut brain is like on overload. Leave in the comments below, like, how do you feel? Like, I really want to know people's opinion. Do y'all really think Ralphine knew or not? So after dinner, Ralphine decides that she wants to go hang out. Maybe she was bowling, I don't know, but that she needed a babysitter to come over. So she called the babysitter over to watch Jason and Megan and informed the babysitter that Jerry was not to be bothered whatsoever. That Jerry was going to be working in his garage, and that no matter what happened with the kids, that she just needed to handle it. And she went out with her friends. Now, can you imagine, after everything is said and done and comes out, that you were babysitting this monster's kids and he's in there doing some crazy shit? After Ralphine leaves and the babysitter gets settled, Jerry goes back into his garage where he takes his infamous leather strap, and he tries to subdue Linda the way he did Jan, Linda, Karen. And Linda is not going to go down without a fight. She fights Jerry back. So much so that it pissed him the fuck off, that every time he thought about that, he would get angry because she fought him back. Unfortunately for her, she would not win that fight, but she fought him back. And it really pissed him off. He hated her for that. He talked like angrily about her when interviewed with detectives because she fought him back. What a fucking coward, yo, right? Ugh, I don't know. Well, anyways, that piece of shit would keep her for about 2 days before he took her to the bridge, and he did the same thing in the course of those 2 days. He, you know, he's a necrophiliac. He did the same things that he had done to his previous victims. So again, this happened on April 23rd. On May 10th, this is like less than 20 days, Linda Saley's body would be discovered by a fisherman in the Willamette River. Shortly after that, Karen Sprinkler's body would surface. Both of them still had that mechanical part connected to them with that electrician's knot. Those were Jerry's victims. Linda Catherine Slauson, who was 19. Jan Susan Whitney, who was 23. Karen Elena Sprinkler, who was 19. And Linda Dawn Saley, who was 22. I'm going to talk about what happened after those victims and what eventually led to Jerry being caught, his conviction, and everything that happened after that. And long after this, that Jerry decided to try a new MO, because remember, his original MO is approaching these women with a, you know, and trying to get them to get in his car or whatnot. So again, he is living close by the university, you know, where him and Tom had went, and he decides to come up with this new plan, kind of like a prank call type of thing, to see to his advantage if what would happen of it. So he starts calling up to the university dorms and just throwing out generic names, just random common, I don't know if generic was the right word, but common names like Mary and Marianne, Jo Beth, Elizabeth, things in this time. So, you know, he's calling and he's like, hey, is Mary around? And of course, the odds of there being a Mary are quite in his favor. So the girl will get on the phone and he would be like, hey girl, this is Jerry, and your friend told me that you're single and you're a pretty hot chick and I'm a pretty groovy guy, and I think we'll go really good together. Like, why don't you say you let me meet you and take you out for a Coke? And this was hit or miss for Jerry. Some people would hang up. Some people would be like, what friend? And he'd be like, click. And some would be like, oh my gosh, really? Like, you sound like such a good guy, and da-da-da. Like, yeah, let's do this, you know? It was very innocent times back then, dude. Like, you gotta remember, because, like, I don't know why I feel like some people are gonna be like, what the fuck, you know what I mean? Or maybe that's just me, I don't know, but let's remember that these are some times, right? Okay, so this is what Jerry is doing, right? And simultaneously, can I not say that word? Detectives are now, they got Karen, they got Linda from the river, and so now they are in full on detective mode. They're like, what the fuck is going on? This has to be the same person. They have the same knot. There's something going on. So they start just interviewing everybody, including the co-eds at the college. And then they start noticing that there's like maybe a pattern of girls that are like, yeah, there was this weird guy that called me saying that a girlfriend of mine was trying to hook us up. And they're like, interesting. And so they're like, have you, and then they're asked, okay, so that's one of the questions. That's one thing that they're keeping on their little notepad, right? And then they're asking them normal questions like, have any guys that you dated lately gave you any red flags? Is anybody weird? Anybody stand out to you? Type of things. And then there's this one girl, and she's like, yeah, I had this one guy call me and tell me that one of my girlfriends recommended me to him and thought that we would be really good together and wanted to take me out for a Coke. And I let him, and he was kind of really weird. And the cops, they hone in on this. This is like very interesting to them, you know, and they're like, okay. And she's like, yeah, it was kind of weird because I did take him up on his offer. But when he picked me up, he was kind of like an older guy, kind of frumpy, redhead, freckled faced. He drove a station wagon, and in his station wagon he had kids' clothes in the back. And it was also never mind. And they're like, no, tell us everything you know. Like, you're not in trouble. Anything will help. We have 2 young girls that we've discovered, and there's many more missing. Like, we really need your help. Anything you can think of. And she's like, well, like, okay, like you mentioned those girls. So when he dropped me off, I found it quite odd because he asked me what made me go with him. And I was like, what do you mean? You seem nice. You said my friend recommended you, so I gave you a try. And he's like, yeah, but when I picked you up, how did you know I wasn't just gonna take you out to the river and dispose of you in the river? How did you know you'd make it back home? And so she was like, because you just seem like a nice guy. Thank you. Have a good night. Gotta go. And she was like, fuck that creep. I ain't ever calling him again. You know what I mean? But the cops were like, girl, we need you. We need you to call him again. We need you to go out with him again. And she's like, oh, I really don't want to go out with him. And she's like, oh, because another thing, she's like, he also wanted me to role play, which I thought was weird. He asked me to be sad, to play like I was sad. And I was like, I can't be sad. I'm not a sad person. And he said for me to think about the girls that had found in the river. And so that right there just like is like a light bulb moment for these detectives. And they're like, look, girl, we need you to be a team player, okay? We need you to be on our side here, okay? We don't want you to put yourself in danger. We don't want you to actively seek him out if you're not comfortable with that. But please do us a solid. If he calls you and he wants another date, or if he calls back to the dorm, you let him know that you had a good night with him. That Coke was fresh and crisp, okay? We need you to set up another one of these things, but we got you. Don't worry. You're not going to have to actually go. We just need you to get him in that lobby, okay? And so she's like, all right, I can do that. I can do that. If you're saying I don't have to go with him, get in his little grungy little station wagon, she's like, I can do that, right? So about 3 days go by, and it's now May 25th, and Jerry's ass calls back. That girl gets Jerry to go back to the university on the idea that he is going to pick her up, and they're going to go for their second date, whatnot. And so Jerry shows up, and unmarked undercovers are waiting for him, and they approach him, but they don't approach him in a way that makes it feel like he's a suspect. They kind of just start small talking him, saying about all the craziness going on in the world, and that, I mean, not in the world, but you know, in their city, that they're just trying to figure out what's going on, and if they could just get his opinion on things. And this, eventually, Jerry loves to talk about himself, and Jerry is the honest criminal. Yeah, he's gonna bullshit a little here and there, and maybe he may not just bluntly be like, yes, you got me, it was me, but he's letting little snippets of his life out enough for them to put the pieces together themselves. So they eventually talk to him so much that they're able to be like, dude, everywhere you have been, there has been some sort of crime, somebody missing. Remember, he broke into that lady's house and he assaulted her, took her shoes. Remember the lady on the streets where he assaulted them, took their shoes. Remember Sharon Wood, like Karen Sprinkler, Linda Saley, Linda Slauson, Jan Whitney, all these women, all these incidents, all these clothes on the line, everything has happened coincidentally where Jerry has been. So of course they're like, oh, is this your car, like the station wagon? And he's like, yeah. And Jerry, with his above average self and his honest criminal self, they were like, is this the only car you ever drive? Do you ever drive your wife's car or any other car? And he's like, every now and then I drive a sports car. It was called a Carmen whatever, I'll put it up here. Sports car. That's my friend's car. Every now and then I drive that. And they're like, literally, we got a report of a man fitting your description driving a car just like that. Like, they're not telling him this, but they're thinking that, like, holy shit. So time is like of an essence, because they have all these girls disappearing, they have these bodies appearing. they're just getting straight to the fucking point. They tell Jerry, can we go to your house? Can we go to your house? And he's like, sure, come on over. And so they go to his house and they see that he has this pulley system. And they notice that the tie on the ropes look awfully familiar. And they bring this up to Jerry. And you know what this cocky motherfucker does? He grabs his knife, snips it off, and he's like, here, why don't you take that with you? I see you looking at it. I see you eyeing it. I see that it is of interest of you. Go ahead, take it with you. So Jerry gives him a piece of the rope that has his electrical knot. The same kind of rope that is associated with all these girls. Jerry don't give two fucks. He thinks he is invincible or something. He gives them a sample of the fucking rope. So after taking a little glance around his little lair, taking his knot with them, they need to go regroup. They need to go figure out how the fuck they want to handle this shit, because it's like, right, it's there. It is all there. All the puzzle pieces are there. Do they want to click those little last two in, right? So they're like, you know what? Let's get that 12-year-old over here. Let her do a photo lineup. Let her see if she can pick a photo of Jerry out of this, and we'll run with that. That'll be something that we can hold on him, because right now it's all speculation. It's all coincidence. We cannot convict or get anybody on coincidence. We need some kind of shadow of a doubt. No shadow of a doubt. You know what I mean? So they call in this little girl. They put in these black and white photos in front of her, and she's like, she's looking at them, and she's like, she's like, well, I don't see him here, but out of all these pictures, this guy looks exactly like him, but the guy that tried to get me had freckles. And they're like, yes, thank you very much. When she left, they're like, go get that mother sucker, because these are black and white and the freckles did not show through. Jerry has freckles. Jerry was the one that she was talking about, but she couldn't point him out. She couldn't say for certain because the picture was in black and white. So they're like, all these location proximities, all these coincidences, no. So on May 28th, 1969, the Salem, Oregon Police Department issued a warrant for Jerome Henry Brudos. Well, they issued it for his property. Sorry, I should have said that first. They issued it for his property. So they're like, let's get in there. Let's go see what we can find. They were able to search his lair, his station wagon, Ralphine's car. And when they went to his station wagon to search it, they noticed that the interior was like all wet, and they're like, what the hell happened here, Jerry? And he's like, you're never gonna believe it. My damn son Jason, when I was in the car wash, he rolled the window down and got the damn water all in the back seat. So there was like nothing they could pick up, nothing they could find, because it was like soaked. The whole interior was like soaked. And so they're going in his garage. He's watching them with a smirk, because in a sick way, he's getting off on this fact. You know, he's really cocky. He kind of likes the attention, like in a weird sick way. It's like he almost wants to get caught. They go and they walk by the rope, and they're like, you know, Jerry, this rope was at 2 of our crime scenes, and that knot of yours looks really mighty familiar. And he's like, maybe I shouldn't have let y'all take that rope, huh? You know, like he's laughing about it. He's like, maybe I should not have let y'all take that rope that day, shouldn't I? So 2 days later, on May 30th, 1969, they actually had an arrest warrant for Jerry. And mind you, they were like telling him this whole time, even before they got the warrant for his house, they have been watching him, because they don't want to lose track of this guy. He is possibly, allegedly at this point, responsible for these heinous crimes. And on May 30th, when they go to serve him his arrest warrant, they notice that him and Ralphine and the kids are jumping in Ralphine's car, and they're booking it out the driveway, and they're headed towards allegedly the Canadian border. They're going in that direction, right? So the detective on this case, I believe his name was Jim Stovall. He was the main detective on this case. So Detective Stovall is like, do not let them get away. You need to pull them over. You need to get Jerry. You need to enact this arrest warrant. We cannot take a chance of him getting away. So it was weird, because they didn't see where this happened at, but when they pulled him over, it was Ralphine that was driving. When they left, Jerry was driving. Pulled over, Ralphine is driving. And they're looking in the car and they see the kids. And they're like, where the fuck is Jerry? Well, Jerry's in the back under a blanket, laying down in the back, which I'm assuming she had a station wagon too, because that's what it sounds like. And they lift the veil, and there he is, hiding in the back seat of Ralphine's car, and Ralphine being the getaway driver, allegedly. They arrested Jerry with the charges of assault while armed with a dangerous weapon for the 12-year-old little girl incident. So once they get him down to the station, of course, they're having to change him into his jumpsuit, right? The officers say that he is wearing silky women's undergarments, and that when they all look at him like, bro, what the fuck are you wearing? He says, and quote, I have sensitive skin. He says he has sensitive skin, and they're just like, I guess. This big old fat ass redhead freckle faced man is in some fucking white silky panties, bro. I don't know. It's just so stupid. Yeah, and he tells him straight up, I have sensitive skin. So anyways, when they search his personal belongings, in his wallet, tucked in like really deep into this pocket, they find a picture of a nude woman, but this part is cut off. Like basically it's just the midsection. It's just a picture of the midsection that's been tucked around in there. It was said that Ralphine was in shambles with her children because she did not know what was going on. She had no idea why they were arresting Jerry. She was very distraught. When she was able to ask Jerry briefly, like, what is going on, he just said, don't worry about it. They're just arrested me because I had a weapon, an unauthorized weapon or whatever. He minimized it greatly. It was not a big deal. Like, chill out. Don't worry about it. Okay, and I'm gonna kind of get this is from the book. So once they had him in custody, they were able to do like a real deep dive search of his house. It says they were able to see his workshop, able to see his hook, like his little pulley system hook, his ropes, his mechanical tools. These are like regular things that are in his garage. Ammunition. They found scuba diving gear. But then they noticed that there was this blue shaggy rug laying just out of place, right? Just like looked odd. So they moved it. Well, in Jerry's garage, there was a little gate, a little trap door that led down to the basement. Under that, once they went down there, that was it. That was the whole shebang. That's where they found his whole inventory. They found his women's shoes. They found shoes, the brassieres, the girdles, the bras, the everything, the slips. They found photos. They found ashes from photos that he had burnt. So no fucking telling what was on those photos because he burnt them. He burnt that evidence. There was no telling what was on that photo. They found photos of the missing girls. There is online. You can go find it yourself. I am not going to show that here. There is a picture of Karen, I believe, the last known photo that Jerry Brudos himself took. That is out there somewhere in the world if you want to find that on your own. I will post here because they did find a picture of Jerry who, unknowing to himself, had actually caught a reflection of himself taking a picture of somebody. So I would put that here. His dumbass, he thought he didn't, but he did. So that was the nail in his coffin, because he can come up with any stories that he wanted for everything that he had, but to have his own face in that reflection showing that he in fact is the one taking the pictures of what these girls who they know are no longer with us, there was no denying or coming back from that. They even found photos of Jerry in drag, which isn't illegal, but still they found that. They also found a binder full of photos where they were similar to the one in his wallet where it was just a torso. Like, I don't know what that was about. I mean, his whole gimmick is shoes, so that just kind of throws me off, because you would think if he had a whole binder of photos that it would be of the shoes, the women in the shoes, but yeah, for some reason it was just the midsection. Everything else was cut off with scissors off the photo, and he had a whole binder of photos like that. So I don't know, that just throws me off, because it's like he's literally the high heel fetish slayer, whatever. So, but yeah, the book itself, again, Anne Rose Lust's killer book, it goes in so much detail. So if you want to know in depth what detectives and all that found, I do advise you to read that book if you are interested in this case and you are a reader. That book, it tells you every little freaking detail. I know that I went into a deep dive and in depth with this video, but I'm barely like on the second layer, maybe surface of this case. There's so much detail that I have, of course, left out. I'm not going to tell you the book word by word, but again, read the book if you're interested. So now they have all this damning evidence against him. It's time to talk to Jerry. And Jerry, again, he's an honest criminal. At the end of the day, once he knows he's caught, his back's against the wall, or he just decides not to fight it no more, he will be truthful. And again, in that book, Jerry just goes into detail about everything. There's so many quotes from Jerry himself. Like, he does not hold back. So on June 26, 1969, Jerry would be officially arraigned. He would plead guilty. At first, he was going for the insanity plea, which I think his lawyers wanted him continue to go with the insanity plea, despite him being evaluated by 7 different psychiatrists. But Jerry, get this shit, Jerry didn't want people to think he was crazy, because he had an IQ of 160, and he did not want people to see him as crazy. Nothing. People already think you're crazy. People think you're a madman. People think you're insane. Like, doesn't even matter. But luckily for everybody involved, nobody had to be put through a trial. No jury, no nothing. It was just the legal team, the legal party, and the judge in the chambers. And after reviewing the evidence, the psychiatrist, everything, they gave Jerry 3 consecutive life sentences. He would not be able to even think about being free for at least 36 years, in which he would have been 66 if he would have ever saw the light of day. But spoiler, he never did. He died his ass in prison. But anyways, so that was a wrap. Jerry was sent on to the Oregon State Penitentiary. For anybody that would like to know, it's just a random fact. His inmate number was 33284. I don't know. Some people like that shit. Some people are into numerology. Some people just like a lot of things. So I'm just trying to put as much as possible into this story. We can't forget about Ralphine. Ralphine was left to the dogs. She's over here dealing with the aftermath of everything. Everybody looking at her like, girl, what the hell? And the rumor mill started buzzing again, because one of her neighbors who lived across the way, the sister of the neighbor, claimed that in March, which would have been the time of Karen's sprinkler, that she swears up and down that she saw Ralphine helping Jerry. So, of course, this is a very serious accusation, because now you're saying that his wife did know and that she was involved, right? So investigators, they really do not feel that Ralphine was involved. Like, they truly believe Ralphine was not involved. But now they have to look into this. So they're doing some work in the background, gathering some things together. In the meantime, though, Ralphine is in the process of divorcing Jerry. She doesn't want to go back to that house, of course. She wants to disassociate herself with anything that has gone on. So she takes her kids and she moves in with her parents. And she's living with the cousin. The kids are living there. She wants to change their whole identities. Like, she's just really trying to get away from this whole situation. And while the police are gathering, what they need to try to bring forth Ralphine and figure out what that's going on, the community is buzzing, dude. They're like, oh my God, I swear I saw her wearing the same shoes as that one girl that they found. Ooh, did you hear that she wore the outfit of one of the girls? Like, how does she not know? Yeah, I heard that she found pictures of her husband and da-da-da-da-da. Like, everybody is buzzing. So as part of their investigation, detectives end up taking Megan and Jason and putting them into the state's care, into foster care, until they can, like, sort all this out and figure out if Ralphine in fact had something to do with it. Jason was very small at the time, so they didn't really bother to question him or anything. But Megan, they made sure, you know, she knew right from wrong and things like that. And so they started to begin to ask her questions. But Megan was said to be really off put by the police because she associated them with the ones that took away her dad, broke up her family, you know, made everything. Remember, she was there, you know, her brother Ralphine, they were all there when they took Jerry into custody, and she never saw her dad again after that. So she associated the policemen as like bad men, bad people. So she didn't really want to talk to them at all. They got very little out of her. She, you know, they would ask her if she saw anything, if she's seen other girls in their house, things like that, but she would just say no. And then one of them asked, did you ever see your daddy dressed up in women's clothing or anything like that? And she kind of just laughed it off like it was so ridiculous, because she's like, no, he's my dad, like why would he be in women's clothing? So they kind of felt like Jerry really did keep everything under wraps and to himself. They really didn't feel like Ralphine or the kids had any idea of what was going on. So after they gathered everything, it was on August 17th. It was on August 17th, 1969, that a first-degree murder charge of aiding and abetting as well, Jerry, was brought up against Ralphine. So she would have a whole jury trial. And let me tell you, they said that was like the biggest thing to hit Salem at that time. And nobody wanted to miss a freaking beat. They said the line was out. The line was crazy at the courthouse. People that did get in and get a seat, that were able to sit down and watch this, they did not want to lose that seat. They would literally sit there all freaking day, no lunch, no bathroom break, no nothing. They did not want to get their ass out of that seat and risk somebody else sliding through. Like, that's how fucking crazy it was. And of course, Jerry didn't have a trial, so this might be the only opportunity people would have had to see the inside of, you know, the inside workings of this case, because of course evidence is going to be brought forth, so that, you know, because they're accusing Ralphine initially of the same shit, you know what I mean? So this is a very, very, very popular case. This is very, very sought out case. Media, community, everybody was obsessed with this at this time. So it said that it took about 2 days just to rile up a jury. They had about 8 women and 4 men on the jury. And then examinations would begin. Evidence would be presented. So, of course, they interview the sister of the lady that is making these claims that she swears she saw Ralphine that day. And the sister really, she doesn't really like know anything. She's like, that's what my sister says, you know, blah, blah, blah. And so then they even bring in Ned. Remember the friend Ned? Well, he contests that because another thing they were trying to say was, of course, Ralphine helped him. How was Jerry going to move these mechanical big-ass parts with these bodies and all on his own? Somebody had to help him, right? So Ned was there to say, I seen Jerry. He was a big old beastly man who could move about 400 pounds on his own. There's very well he could have done this all by himself. He even goes on to talk about the day that he went over and Jerry kind of rushed him out. He talks about how his relationship with Jerry, that it was just, they were buddies. They worked on mechanics, cars and stuff together. He was a crucial witness for the detectives, even though Jerry didn't go to trial. But like, Ned was able to say, oh my God, yes, I know where that motor came from. Like, I worked on that car with Jerry. So Ned was very crucial to this case on both sides. He even contested to seeing the paperweights, remember the paperweights in the house, and that Jerry himself had told him that they were also novelty gag gifts. So he was able to back up Ralphine's claim of things that Jerry said, because Jerry had also told him that. And so to bring up the paperweights, you got to remember that allegedly Ralphine really didn't have anything to do with this. So all this evidence, you know, there was evidence being brought in, you know, not the paperweights, of course, but that Ralphine was seeing and hearing about for the first time. So she was kind of like in shock herself, because this is the first time she's getting slapped in the face with all of this. Like, she genuinely reacted like she really didn't know like what Jerry was doing. So this is also her first time, you know. It was said that after Ned, they brought in Ralphine's parents, who contested that Ralphine was at their house quite often, and that Jerry did make her call and check in like when she was leaving and things like that, and vice versa. Jerry would often call and be like, "Are you still there?" Like you know what I mean? Like, of course they didn't know he was paranoid at the time, but he would call in himself and be like, "Are you still there? Don't forget, let me know when you're coming home." So her parents were able to say, yes, she was at our house quite a lot. We watched the kids quite a lot. You know, Jerry was very controlling in that sense. Like, she had to communicate her comings and goings, things like that. And then it was said that it got very sad for Ralphine because next they interviewed Megan on the stand, and that was the first time in about 2 months that she saw her daughter, and her daughter saw her, because again she was in state's care. So she kind of broke down and was very it was a very somber moment because she hadn't seen her daughter in all this time, and she's seeing her in a courtroom where the daughter is basically testifying, and she didn't know where that was going to go. So that was an emotional thing for her. But when Megan did testify, all she kept saying was she didn't remember. She was no real help to any side because she just kept saying, like, I don't remember, I don't remember, I don't remember. And of course, they brought the lady herself, the one that is claiming all these things. And that pretty much was when it became almost a wrap, because that lady, she couldn't back up anything she was saying. She was so confidently saying, like, yes, I seen I seen Ralphine doing this, and I seen her doing that, and her and Jerry were doing this, and da 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 da. But when they were bluntly and directly, because you know how lawyers, they be tearing you a new one, like that's what they were doing. They were like, well, what color was the thing, and where did you see her, and about where, and where were you standing in the window, and how far, and da 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 da. And she just was like, I don't know, I can't see. It was too crazy. I didn't know the color of the thing, and I don't know what she was wearing, and I don't know exactly how they lifted it, and I don't know, like, she just, all of a sudden, these things that she's claiming, she did not know. So that, of course, is kind of like putting the stamp on the envelope and sending that shit away, because it's just like, she doesn't know what she's claiming, and the whole reason we're here for Ralphine, this lady is now saying like she doesn't know, she can't explain, she don't remember. So that pretty much was a wrap for her. But of course they still had to interview Ralphine herself. So on September the 30th, 1969, Ralphine would take the stand in her own case. So of course the first thing they want to cover is the marriage between her and Jerry. Ralphine said that she never thought that her and Jerry had like anything wrong with their marriage. She went through, even when she saw the shift in Jerry when he quit coming home, she said how she found the pictures. She went over how she found the pictures of him in drag, and you know, people were just like, oh my gosh, girl, like, how did you not know? And she acknowledged that. She acknowledged that it could sound and look bad, these things, but that's in hindsight. Like, she can't go back and change that she didn't do anything or take it more serious back then. You know, like, who would think that their husband is doing something this crazy? You know what I mean? So she was just like, I know in hindsight it does look bad. She's like, but when I was in it, I just thought that was Jerry being weird. Like, you know, and then they brought up the pictures that she didn't even want nobody to see, the developer. Well, now the whole damn community is seeing these pictures because they put them things for the whole courtroom to see, the pictures of her. And she was just like, basically, I just thought Jerry was kinky, okay? Yes, I seen him in drag. I thought that was his thing. I didn't say nothing. I didn't make a big deal. I seen the pictures. He had a story. He said they were his friends, and that was never going to happen. I seen him dressed up, and I thought he was just a weirdo, too. Like, I just didn't make a big deal about it. Like, I didn't know that he was doing this, you know? Like, so that's basically how Ralphine is, you know? And they can't prove that, you know, any other thing. They can't prove either or. So that's just where we're at right now. So when they're getting about to the conclusion, they bluntly ask her, they're like, Ralphine, if you knew that Jerry was doing the things that Jerry is convicted of, what would you have done if you had known? And she is quoted as saying, I would have moved out. I would have left him. So to me, for that to be her answer, that also makes me think of, like, maybe she is very immature. Like, common sense is not handed equally out to everybody, okay? Like, not everybody gets the same amount of common sense. Not everybody thinks the way we think. Like, for me personally, I'm just thinking, like, you wouldn't have turned him in. You wouldn't have said anything. You wouldn't have tried to trap him. You would have just left and moved out and went about your way. Like, I don't want to be associated with that, because that's what I got from that statement, you know? But it's like, you got to remember, like, common sense, not everybody is distributed equally, okay? So I mean, I freaking guess, dude. At this point, you wore me down, Ralphine, okay? I guess I believe you. I guess I believe you to an extent. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Okay, I don't know. I don't fucking know. So after all that was said and done, they interviewed the neighbor. They interviewed the neighbor's sister. They interviewed Ned. They interviewed Megan. They had also interviewed like a brother-in-law or something that was supposedly there when this conversation went on. And he's like, yeah, she did say that, but she's also said like 2 other stories. And that was pretty much the end of his testimony. And then they interviewed Ralphine herself, Ralphine's parents. So on October 2nd, 1969, the judge concluded that he really didn't believe that Ralphine was guilty of anything. So that was the end of that. She was found not guilty, released, and that was that. So that pretty much wraps up the whole, like, Ralphine's part in all of this. Her, Jason, and Megan, they ended up moving on. In 1976, Jerry's officially lost his rights and any connection that he could have to the kids. They were able to change their last name. It was said that she picked a common last name, so that could have been anything. She could have been Smith, Jones, Garcia, hell, I don't know. But she picked random names for them and a very common last name because she just wanted to move on from this. She wanted to disassociate herself as far as she can from all of this chaos and have a good life with her kids. So that is the end of the chapter for Ralphine. Okay? Meanwhile, Jerry's sitting up in the Oregon State Penitentiary and he is fucking hating it. So much so that he's trying to I can't even talk. This guy's a joke. So much so that he is trying to blame low sugar, diabetes or something on all what he did. He's trying to get a doctor to say that that was possible, that his low sugar made him mad. And he's trying to retract things that he said because he's having a shitty time in jail. He's crying that he's being harassed and he's being stalked and he's like, all these things are happening to him as they fucking should. And he's just appeal after appeal after appeal after appeal. He wants out. He wants out. He's like, all right, guy, the gag's up. No more, no more, no more. You know, he can't sit in the reality like, this is your life, buddy. This is your life, buddy. This is it. You did this to yourself. You're here. This is it. Like, it's a wrap. You're not getting out, you know? He couldn't accept it. So he appealed a lot of times, as much as he could appeal, the max appeals, and he was denied, of course. They had all his evidence because he was the above average honest criminal. And now he was trying to say, like, no. And then you can't forget the actual evidence of having him in a picture. So, yeah, he tried to do that. So, yeah, Jerry was completely fucking miserable for the longest in prison. So he had to find his little happiness somewhere, right? So I don't know if it's still the same, if it's just, or if it's changed by now, which I'm hoping it has. But back then, Oregon did not monitor their mail or have restrictions or something like that. So Jerry earned him some coins working as a leather keychain maker. So if you had a leather keychain or a leather keychain that had a company or some kind of name or sports team or anything on it back in the 70s, 80s, maybe 90s, then you just might have had you a Jerome Henry Brudos exclusive in your pocket, because that's what he was doing. He was making leather fob keychains, I think. Fob, maybe that's not the word, I don't know. But he was making keychains, leather keychains, some that were engraved and some that were not. And he was making his little 2 cents a day, saving them up and buying magazine subscriptions to, you guessed it, high heels. High heels. I cannot make this shit up, dude. I'm fucking serious. He had a subscription to High Heel magazine so that he can tear these magazines out and plaster them on his cell and surround himself with pictures of women's high heels. Yep. Not no bikini girls. Not no lowrider girls. I don't know what y'all got up in themselves. I'll be honest. I don't know. But Jerry had shoes. Jerry had shoes. Jerry had him some shoes on the wall. He did that. He spent all his little coins on shoes. Oh, and then he got in trouble. Get this shit. Somehow he got the phone number of one of the female guards that were in there, and he tried to call her and harass her. So he got his phone line privileges taken away. He tried it. He tried it. I guess that 160 IQ, whatever it was, did not work for him in there. It was useless in there. He tried it. He got caught. So, as it does, technology evolved. And let's not forget how brilliant Jerry is in technology. So, he ended up being their top computer processor. He worked his way up from keychains to computers. And that's pretty much what he did, I believe, from his time on. He was the top computer processor. He knew how to run all the computer systems. Now, I don't know if that was a smart idea to trust that man with stuff like that. But they did, and he did it, and he made money, and they were impressed. He was brilliant. I guess that's what that IQ was for. I'm already coming to a conclusion, but I'm going to leave something that I thought that was funny. Jerry got pissed off because he saw a magazine that titled him the Lust Killer. I guess the first time they ever said that. And he was mad. He said that he was not no damn lust killer, that he was just a killer. So I think it's kind of funny. Like, is that why Anne Rule named her book that, kind of taunting him? I thought that was pretty funny because he was mad. He didn't want to be known as the Lust Killer. So that's what he is. He's the Lust Killer. And on March 28th, 2006, Potato Head Jerome Henry Brudos passed away from liver cancer after serving 40 years behind bars. Damn. I believe that would have made him 67 years old, and he would have been up for parole at 66. Karma's good. Sometimes karma is just fucking good like that. Yeah, so he died at the age of 67 in 2006. And that is it. That is the story of Jerome Henry Brudos, the Lust Killer. Again, there are so many things out there on the internet. If you want to go down that rabbit hole, there's a lot of things that are out there. There's a lot of pictures that I did not have here, even though I did have quite a lot. There's some more pictures out there. There's even a website called Slot something, and those are copyrighted. You got to purchase those. I was not about to use those, but they have pictures of Ralphine and Jerry throughout their marriage. They have pictures of Jerry as a boy. They have... You can go down that rabbit hole. You can go down that rabbit hole, go through the tunnel of the internet, and you can find you all sorts of things if you're interested in this case or any other case, you know. But that is my deep dive. I know this was a lengthy video. If you stuck around this long, you're the real MVP. If this is like your second or more video, then you might as well subscribe. You know you like me. And yeah, I usually start getting awkward at the end of all my videos. I've already seen myself kind of evolving as I'm making videos because I'm still trying to get comfy with myself and this camera. But hopefully you stick around for that journey. If you do, again, you're the real MVP. Comment below what you thought about this case. There's even Facebook groups for the city of Salem, Oregon, and people talk about it. People that were there during this time, growing up during this time, they talk about this. Like, I'm the type, when I look into something, I get fixated on it and I start going down the rabbit hole. Like, I will find the most. I'm a little sleuth, okay? I'm a sleuth. I'm a sleuth. I'm a true crime slut. Like, I'm a sleuth. Like, seriously. So it's there. So yeah, I'm gonna quit ranting and rowing. I'm gonna quit ranting and I'm gonna let you go. Please subscribe, please comment, please like. So I don't know if I want y'all to share. I don't know how I feel that. I don't know. Just do all the YouTubey things, okay? And I'll see you in the next one, as they say. Thank you.